Incremental readings. So you may have just installed Supermemo, and the first thing that appears is this collection, the ABC for Supermemo. This collection is the same for every version. It's been many years that this practice is consistent. They're just fine-tuned, adjusted of each version. So what I'm going to show you is just an overview of this collection, and I will focus on what I think that suffers from old age, is perhaps a simplification, oversimplification, because the intention is that you know just the basics of Supermemo, so you can just use it, at least with few clicks. But at least according to me, there's some stuff that I won't do it if it was me. One of the big factors is that what you will see in this collection are outliers. Something that is very rare in Supermemo, and it will give you the impression that that's common. It's how it's supposed to be. To the point that could be even misleading, misrepresenting Supermemo quite deeply, at least to my understanding. So let's do this. I will skip fast-paced because you feel free to use the collection yourself, but I will go to the point of the what I don't match with Supermemo. Okay, how Supermemo works, very high-level overview. Basically, you keep clicking next repetition, right? Nice. Then notice this, that is an image component. Do you see icon grades and grades in Supermemo? Nice. This is important because eventually, like here, that's not a common practice. Not only that, you should not do that. It's an inline image inside the what's called HTML component. And it's especially true in the case, here we go once again, as a flashcard. So part of the answer includes two images. I can know that if I see the source is actually using a GIF and a JPEG. But look at that. It's using relative directories, URLs, paths. This is very prone to break, so the link breaks, and it's not really enforced. You should never use that solution. I know that perhaps you come from Anki and it's very convenient to have the images right away with the text, but in Supermemo, you need to use the registry. That's a very bad practice. It's just a matter of time that this breaks. It's not future-proof. So what you could do is insert those images, and that's how it's meant to be used. But yeah, that doesn't look as fancy, right? On the side. Then I will click, by the way, answer and answer. So now the flashcard looks like this. It's not aesthetic, but that's how it should be done in Supermemo. So the ABC collection is kind of misleading you. And what you will want to do is reproduce this strategy. Another one that I skipped is this. What is this? Never, absolute never, use multiple choice questions for spaced repetition. In a spaced repetition, the questions are just a tool to reach to one specific memory, so you have the ability, the chance, the opportunity to recall it. And when you have this retrieval, you keep this on memory. That's why you do spaced repetition, to avoid the forgetting. You want to revisit that memory as least as possible, enough to keep it on your long-term memory. That's a different way how you ask the questions. It's not a question as a reading comprehension, but as a hook to trigger that memory. Oh, you remember that day we went to visit this, oh yeah, bam. It's a different story. Therefore, in the only scenario that multiple choice question is justified is if you have an artificial need imposed by the school system, that you need to do an exam which format is multiple choice questions. Other than that, never, never in your life use multiple choice questions. It's the worst. The worst. It will weaken your recall. It will mess up your semantic connections. You will learn possibly jargon or fake stuff, the distractors. There is nothing positive. Nothing positive. Please, even if you have seen this in the ABC collection, don't ever use this strategy. Let me answer the question. When do you make a repetition of a given piece of knowledge, assuming within Supermemo? Select the correct answer. This is already a shitty question because the correct answer depends on the options I have. It's not universal. So given the options I have, meaning is dependent on the question, it's not the question itself, the question and the answers as a whole, then I could get the answer. This is already shitty. I must find the question and press Ctrl N. I click by accident. Wrong. Every day. Supermemo decides the right time. For instance, in a month. It's not necessary to make repetitions, or I make a repetition only after all questions have been answered. My genuine answer, all of wrong. Yes, Supermemo decides the right time to schedule the repetition. But the question doesn't say when it is scheduled. When a given piece of knowledge is scheduled. It's when you use. It's when you make the repetition. You perform the repetition. That's not the answer to this question. It will be on the outstanding date. Therefore, when Supermemo algorithm decided to become outstanding, that this will be scheduled that day or later. Because I may have done the repetition a few days later, or weeks, or months. And if you are a long-term user, even years later. So that's not correct. It's correct. In this array of possibilities is the one that makes more sense, but it's not necessarily correct. You know what I mean? Let me see the other ones. 1 second. Okay, another one. How many times does Supermemo ask you a given question, like this one? Let's see the option. I already list like the question, regardless if it's multiple choice or not. Only once. You never see the question again. Several times on a single day. And never again in the future. As often as possible, if you have the patience to answer. Several times in the future, such as 10 times in a lifetime, or as many times as you want. Which one is correct? None. None or several, depends on your interpretation. The one I think they meant is this one. Yeah, several times in the future. Meaning that if you never lapse that flashcard, you always succeed to successfully recall, you will see it a bunch of times because the interval keeps growing and in the years. So next interval will be already outliving you. You will die before making the next repetition. So it could be 10, 15, 8, depending on many factors. Okay, gotcha. But what happens several times in a single day? This can be true. For instance, if I have the final drill, or as many times as you want to be asked, yes, in the final drill. It goes until I press 4 or 5, it will keep showing me this in a loop, ad infinitum, until some days have passed and that element quits the final drill. So what I would do instead is, first, there's more information embedded in this question. Is there a maximum interval? Yes. 120 years. Which would be the current that it's enough that it will outlive you. So it keeps increasing forever. Nice. Is there a minimum interval? Yes. And it's 1 day. That's a piece of knowledge already. That means that in normal circumstances, I won't have several times the same card in a single day. Unless I use, for instance, the final drill. Or I add to outstanding manually. Or the user has overrides using some features and forces this case. It's possible. And Supermemo will lock those repetitions on the same day for the same item. And never again in the future. Yes? Let's say it's in the final drill. I see it again and again and again. You know what? I don't want that. Poop. And I delete the element. This satisfies. As many times as I want. Could be. And on top of that, the question says, ask you a given question. No. What you are presented is an item. And an item has a question. So it's not about scheduling the questions, are items at the end of the day. That's why this strategy is absolute crap. Don't use multiple choice questions. There are a lot of nuances not taken into place, and the reasoning to discard distractors is no longer atomic. Minimum interval, what other features can have more repetitions on the same day, worthless. Let me see if there's another one. Okay, nothing more to learn. So, what happened? That I just got exposed to several items, flashcards, and it's just multiple choice, absolutely terrible, or close deletions. And some close deletions have this practice, once again, that they use inline images in the HTML. So already two bad practices from the beginning. So if I know nothing, I will think that that's how it is. That Supermemo is meant to be used this way, when it's not. And on top of that, almost everything was pending. And the pending queue is almost never used. On top of that, do you see the parents? So you have, it's a good purpose, but the close relation has been performed already. So you see the result, the children, and the parent now doesn't make any purpose. So you could apply done here. Because it's unlikely you will do more close relations here. And second, this is also uncommon. So they haven't fine-tuned this, so you have italics, bold, all of that. That is very likely you will do this yourself in the incremental reading process. Like hint, with this styling, all of that. So that's not how your flashcards from incremental reading will look like. So overall, I just did this collection in 5 minutes as a user, and I see pending queue that theoretically you're not going to use. I see images inside HTML components, instead of the registry, and I see multiple choice questions. It's hard to see them because it's not using the template. It looks like the template, but it's not applied. So overall, there are only 29 flashcards at the end of the day. They will look like this. You make the close relation and you have it on the back. That's it. And another bad practice would be like this. And again, the flashcard here will be what you see in blue. All of those hints are optional and usually won't look like this. So it will look something like that most of the time. So in this video, I just focused on those key points. There's more in the collection that I skipped, but it's just to emphasize what you see in this collection doesn't represent incremental reading, how it will be used most of the time. Some cases, like the pending queue, are outliers, and then the multiple choice question and the inline images are just blatantly no-nos. Something you'll never see. So, remember, this collection is just a very simple preview, not enough for the basics, and I hope with my message I came across those 3 factors that can be misleading. That's all for now. See you incrementally.